So this game is my Zekeels deck versus a Durant deck. And I apologize if my voice sounds a little bit different. I'm not sure how this audio is going to come out, but I am doing the audio at a different location than where I normally do it. So it's a little more open here. My voice may sound a little more echoey. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into the game. So starting off pretty fast, he goes first. With Durant, he plays a Sky Arrow, attaches a Metal Energy and an Eviolite for the turn. And I start out with a lone Mewtwo. So he junk arms what's left of his hand to draw a fresh hand, hoping to get something to get the rest of his Durant out in play. And he amazingly gets 2 Durant off a Juniper. Attaches another Eviolite. And we'll see if he has anything else in his hand, like a dual ball, a level ball, anything else to search those out. And he doesn't, so he devours 3. So I'm going to play the only supporter in my hand, the Collector. Definitely want to go for the Zekrom because that is your main attacker against a Durant deck. I'm also considering the Smeargle since Sky Arrow is in play. I can use 1 energy to retreat and I can portrait Smeargle on this turn to hopefully get another supporter to help me set up a little faster so I can get get my Zekrom going. I am going to go for the eel, even though it does have a heavy retreat cost. It's really going to help speed up my energy attachments, especially when he uses Crushing Hammer. And I can use a variety of things like Switch and Shaman to move those energy around. So I'm going to just capture up one of the empty Durants and attach to the lightning energy to Mewtwo. And I do that without realizing that even though he did play Sky Arrow, there's a glitch in the game. And it's not actually recognizing that Sky Arrow is in play. For some reason, it's recognizing, you can tell on his bench that he can have free retreat with those 2 Durant, but nothing else on the field has that little red exclamation mark on it. So for some reason, it's just not saying that Sky Arrow is in play. So there kind of goes my idea of being able to discard the energy to retreat back to Smeargle. But oh well. You know, the game glitches every now and then, so not a big deal. So I use Pokemon Catcher to bring up my Zekrom, which is perfect. That's exactly what I wanted in the active position. He plays another Sky Arrow, which is face up this time, so hopefully it's not going to glitch again and is actually going to stay active, or in an active position, I should say. So then he uses Professor Oak's new theory, gets a fresh new hand. He's going to use Sky Arrow to retreat back to the Durant that has energy on it. He wasn't able to get that 4th Durant, so he just devours for 3. I'm going to go ahead and attach 1 energy to the Zekrom. I'm going to go ahead and evolve to Electric. And I'm going to go ahead and use Dynamotor to take one of those energy and go ahead and put it on the eel in case, because he's likely going to use Catcher to focus on my eels, since it does have the high retreat cost. But again, I still think playing 1 eel in a Durant matchup is not a bad play, especially since it looks like he's going aggro Crushing Hammer. And having that eel to get extra energy onto the field, especially considering I do run Shaman to move the energy around, is going to be very helpful. So he collectors for that 4th Durant, as well as a Rotom. When I see the Rotom, I get concerned that he plays Prism or Lightning, and may be able to use Rotom to knock out my Zekrom after I've done a few Bolt Strikes and taken some damage to myself, so I'm a little concerned about that. And as you find out later, I do make a misplay, but luckily it doesn't lose me the game. He catchers up Mewtwo, and at this point it really doesn't matter if it's Mewtwo or Eel. With Sky Arrow, they have the same retreat, so he devours for 4, and I pull into yet another useless catcher. I'm going to go ahead and attach, use Dynamotor to attach to that bench Zekrom. Going to attach to the Mewtwo, and since I can't Bolt Strike and knock him out, I'm going to end my turn. I could retreat and do 20, or actually, I can't even do that with Eviolite, so yeah, there's no point in me throwing out that energy to retreat, because if he comes up with another Crushing Hammer, then he's going to have to decide whether to take it off the Mewtwo, so I'm forced to attach again to retreat, or if he's going to take it off the Zekrom, where I can easily just Dynamotor it back on. I don't have any other energy in the discard pile right now, so that 1 energy in my hand is all I have. So he doesn't really do much on his turn, but he devours for 4 and devours a DCE, so that's definitely going to hurt. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to attach the lightning first or play the Pokegear. Looks like I'm going to attach the lightning, which gets my, I'm ready to go now. And I'm going to discard that lightning and retreat. Use that Dynamotor to reattach. Actually, I'm going to go with the eel again. And it looks like I'm going to, because I don't really need to do anything else right now, I'm going to hold on to that Pokegear, I think just mainly to conserve cards in my hand. Against the Durant matchup, even just, if you don't need to play it, then don't play it. There's no reason in wasting, catchers and things like that if you absolutely don't need them, because that's just more cards that you can put back into your deck to shuffle back in later. So he's going to use the catcher to bring up Mewtwo, which has nothing on it to retreat with. If I hadn't attached that energy to an eel and attached to Mewtwo instead, he would have just targeted the eel. So it really didn't matter there. He's going to Juniper and get a fresh hand, pretty much looking for his revives. And looks like he's going to Junk Arm some stuff. Probably going to, and I think going for the Crushing Hammer. I remember he goes for a lot of Crushing Hammers in this game. So he throws out the Level Ball on something else he didn't need and gets another Crushing Hammer. Plays it, and another Heads. So that discards 1 off of the Zekrom. He's going to Junk Arm again, and I believe it's for another Crushing Hammer, which makes the 4th Crushing Hammer that he's played. Yep, there it is. And if I remember right, yep, he gets his 3rd out of 4 heads on Crushing Hammer. So a little frustrating, but not much really I can do. He devours again and tosses out another of my DCEs. So I'm going to go ahead and use that Pokegear because now I actually kind of need a supporter. So Pont's a good one. Definitely don't want a Juniper or Sage. I don't want to discard one. So Pont's really the only supporter I wanted to see. I'm going to go ahead and attach that Eviolite to my Zekrom, and that's because I am concerned about the Plasma Arrow Rotom. Checking out my discard pile right now. The only lightning energy in there are the 2 that he threw out with the Crushing Hammers on that last turn. He has devoured 2 of my DCE, which that hurts as well. And I'm going to go ahead and Dynamotor 1. And I believe I'm now going to play the Super Rod. And honestly, it's more of just being able to use it before I lose it. That Shaman can also come in handy throughout the game if I absolutely need it, especially with those Crushing Hammers. But mainly is to get 3 more cards back into my deck. So I'm going to go ahead and use Professor Oak's New Theory, draw a new hand, and even though it's not a lightning, luckily I do hit 1 energy, which means I can, actually, trying to think, yeah, I didn't mean to play that Smeargle at all. That's another card I really don't need to play, especially with having 1 on the bench, so there's no reason to play it. I'm kind of looking at his bench. Unfortunately, I was hoping for a switch or a Junk Arm, but I didn't quite pull that. So, I do want to make sure that I get a knockout on this turn. So I'm going to go ahead and use a Level Ball to get Shaman. I'm going to, believe, attach for the turn first, or am I going to use Shaman first? It really doesn't matter either way. And I'm going to, so play Shaman, and I'm going to use Celebration Wind to move 1 onto the Mewtwo from the Eel, and that will allow me to retreat after I attach that fighting energy for my turn to Zekrom. So you take out that 1 to retreat with, promote the Zekrom, and I can ensure another knockout on this turn. With Durant, that's a big thing, is just once you can get set up, is getting those 6 consecutive knockouts. That's really the best strategy, is just to, once you can, just ensure that you're getting knockout after knockout because that's taking more of his Durants out of play. And again, he hits another heads on a crushing hammer. So very, very, very frustrating. And he ends me down to 4, which is all right. Gives him a bit bigger hand, but I'm not at a terribly low hand yet. So ending me down to nothing is really not that big a deal. He does get a revive to get another Durant in play. But what I was saying before was getting those consecutive KOs makes it harder for him to recover turn after turn. If you're leaving gaps in between, that does give him more time to use resources to get those Durants back out in play, and of course to devour more cards from your deck. So he devours for 3, devours a third DCE, and here's what could have been a crucial misplay. I mentioned once that Rotom's Plasma Arrow could easily knock me out after a few Bolt Strikes, and by attaching that DCE, I attach it just as a precaution, just because I have no other energy in hand to attach with. However, that was, I was thinking if he doesn't run Lost Remover, hasn't drawn into the Lost Remover, runs another Crushing Hammer, that's just another energy he has to knock out. So I did Dynamotor onto a Mewtwo, just to get another energy back in play, and I get another Bolt Strike. At this point, I only need 2 energy. I'm able just to Outrage. So he attaches an energy to the bench Durant for the turn, and he uses Twins. And his deck is actually lower than my deck right now, which is always a little interesting in Durant decks. So I'm assuming that he's going to Twins for 2 cards to get Durant back in play. And yep, sure enough, one of them is a Revive, and he has another Revive. So we're now back to 4 Durants in play, meaning he's devouring 4 cards per turn. So there goes really nothing big. And luckily I do pull a Junk Arm, so that's great in case he tries to catch her stuff up for, to slow me down. And he did throw away another energy, which is fine by me because I can just put that right back on with Dynamotor, which I'm going to do right now with that eel, which is perfect for me because now that means anything he catches up, I can easily just retreat. So I'm going to Junk Arm for the Super Rod, just as a little insurance because I don't want him to end me to put that Super Rod back in the deck, or that Junk Arm back in the deck and then have him devour it. So while I'm able to use it and while I'm in a good energy position to be able to retreat manually, I want to go ahead and use that Junk Arm on the Super Rod just for a little insurance. So I'm going to Outrage because I do have, 80 on me. And so that makes my Outrages 100 each. And even with Eviolite and Special Metal, I'm still doing good, pretty good with that. And that's all I need to knock him out. So I'm only 2 prizes away, getting really close. He ends me again. In this case, it actually helps my deck out because that does add 2 more cards to my deck, but he's pretty much hoping to just not give me any resources. So I have 16 cards in the deck, and he's got 3 Durant out in play. We'll see if on that end he was able to get a Junk Arm or another Revive to be able to get a 4th Durant out in play. If not, I'm looking even better. At this point, it looks like he doesn't run Prism Energy or a Lightning Energy for that Rotom to be able to use Plasma Arrow on opposing Zekroms, which pretty much saves me. I do have other options as far as just Dynamotoring onto Mewtwo and, possibly before, if I had done this earlier, using that Shaman to move stuff around onto that Mewtwo to just pile up a lot of energy. Of course, I could always get another Zekrom in play, just would have taken a little longer. So it would have been interesting to see if me attaching that DCE really would have been a terrible misplay if he ran the energy for the Rotom, or if not. So here he's just taking a really long time to decide his turn, so I'm just kind of bored and checking my deck. Again, 16 cards. I check his wins. I feel like I've run up against this guy before, Pokepower 22, so I figured if I recognize his name, then he was probably a pretty good player. And as you can see, this is your standard Durant deck. You don't have any really not crazy techs like well, Cobalion and Mewtwo aren't crazy techs, but I've seen lots of other Durants that run like Scizor and stage 1 or stage 2 other metal Pokemon. So this is probably just your standard Durant deck. You know, just a really good example of focusing on getting the Durants out and you know, really nothing else. The Rotom's really only there in case Durant surprised. So here I'm checking on my discard pile. I believe there's 3 junk arms. 2 were, I think, devoured. 1 I actually used. So I think there was at least 1 switch in there. And I do remember he takes his turn any minute now. So again, I really apologize for having to sit through all this. He only has 6 cards in his deck, surprisingly, which is kind of interesting. But if he gets off 2 more, well, the way I'm looking at it is that I win in 2 turns. So with 16 cards in the deck, he's really got his work cut out for him. He needs to get more Crushing Hammer out, Lost Remover, repeated catchers to force me to discard them, and finally, here we go. He takes his turn, devours for 3, and that's it. So I see the Juniper in my hand. I definitely don't want to do that. I go ahead and Dynamotor onto the Mewtwo in case he does pull out a Plasma Arrow and is able to knock it out, to knock my Zekrom out. And so here I'm going to Outrage for the knockout, leading me down to 1 prize, and with him only having 2 Durant in play. And I believe I still have 12 cards in my deck, which puts me at a great position against a Durant deck. And with energy on the bench on everything, so anything he can catch her up, I can easily just manually retreat. I don't really see what he could do unless he just hits a lot of Crushing Hammers. And so there we go. He has no other choice but to devour for 2. And here we go. I still have 9 cards left in my deck when I outrage for the final time, taking my last prize and winning the game. So that is your standard Durant deck against a pretty standard Zekeels list. So nothing really crazy on either of our sides. And overall, a really, really good game. So hope you guys enjoyed it.